Ever been in a work meeting where you feel the person who is talking has said something that is not true? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've been in a work meeting and someone has said something which you believe is not only untrue, but also maybe irresponsible or foolish. Okay. Raise your hand if you have ever been in a workroom or a work meeting where you are doing one thing and a person that is in that meeting has an opposing point of view, right? It's not just that you think they're wrong, it's that they have an opposing point of view. Raise your hand if you think you will ever be in a work meeting in your life where you are trying to get promoted, or you're trying to sell your ideas, or you're trying to convince a bunch of people about an idea that you have is worth investing in. Raise your hand if you think that'll ever happen to you in your entire life. Of course it will. If you plan to work, it will happen to you. So what critical thinking will do is it will not only allow you to think critically, which you don't even understand yet, but you will very soon. It allows you to understand why you think a certain way, how you think, and what the problems in your thinking do that cause you to have the same outcomes in your life and in your work role. It will then cause you to help see things from a different perspective, and not only your perspective differently, so you shift your perspective, but you also begin to see the perspective of other people. So then when you become more empathetic, you can start to say, oh, I see what that person means. And there's a difference between being empathetic, which is very beginning level thinking. So I see what you're saying, and a difference than what I'm saying, right? So you can see that? When it becomes critical thinking and analysis, you start to say, oh, I see why you think that, how you came to that conclusion, how it compares to my thinking, why my thinking is different, why your thinking might be superior but might not be, what we can do to collide our ideas in a way that doesn't create a boom, but collide them in a way that is collaborative. What we can do to see the fault in your reasoning, why your reasoning is good or why it's bad. And what that enables you to do in your work role and in your work life is help you attack ideas and not people. It's a huge difference. Because people who attack other people become petty. But if you begin to attack ideas, you don't say, George, I think you're wrong. You say, George, would you mind helping me understand how you came to the conclusion that you came to? Because I'm very interested in seeing your logic. And then when George fails to produce sound logic, you say, could you please justify then how you came to that conclusion, given the information that you presented to us? What data did you use to arrive at that conclusion? What was your inferences? And what do you believe the consequences of your decisions might be based on the information you presented? You see that? That has nothing to do with George, I like you, I don't like you. That's George, you said something that is just not right. And in fact, you said it as truth, right? You ever hear these people? They're so convinced of their own argument that they believe it's true. And you say, well, can you please explain to me how you gathered the information to arrive at that decision? Notice I didn't say what the information said. Just tell me how you got to the information. People can rarely even answer that question. And you know, if they say, well, I got it from Wikipedia, and you say, well, can we believe in that then? So you begin not to challenge individuals, you begin to challenge the way that they think. In your own preparation, you become less vulnerable because you have already thought through the things you need to think through. How fascinating is that? If you go into a boardroom and let's say you have $1 million proposal and your competitor has $1 million proposal, and you have used critical thinking and you've considered all the things that you need to think about, and that person has not, you begin to attack the arguments that they make and not the person. Once you get really great at critical thinking and you become a practice thinker, then you will begin to make other people's arguments for them. So you will begin to argue other people's points and their decisions in your own head before you rebut to them. Because then you can ask a question anticipating how they will answer because you already thought through it. And in fact, if they don't answer in a way that is logical and consistent with the data and what it tells you, then you can say, well, have you thought about it this way? Notice I didn't say you're wrong, did I? Have you considered thinking about it from this perspective? Or, okay, given the information that you've presented, might another conclusion that you can draw from that information be X or Y or Z? You see what I'm saying? That's powerful. Then it shows that you actually have the ability to think through and articulate yourself.